Here we have lots of lettuce plants which need to go out, and these are looking great. Hi all, and welcome to WeSow. And in today's episode, I'd just like to take you guys on a little whistle stop tour of our greenhouse, just to show you how we're getting on and what we've got inside. As you can see, the weather is absolutely glorious. It's been a really challenging year as it's been very wet. May has been incredibly wet with a lot of rain, and it's meant that I haven't been able to get a lot of our plants into the greenhouse when I would have intended, because I just knew certain things wouldn't germinate because of the low temperatures. So now that it's hot, we've managed to get a lot of the other plants that were still stuck in our house into our greenhouse now. And since the temperatures are climbing, it's a good spot for them at this time. And we will be planting certain things out over the season as we get time. But for now, come and have a look at what is in our greenhouse for today. So let's step in. So first things first, if you are wondering what this green haze is above our greenhouse, we do have a shade cloth on it, and that's just some mesh which we have put on as it prevents the greenhouse from overheating and has saved us from a lot of burnt plants. And then as far as housekeeping goes, things are a little bit of a mess. We have the hay from the wheat that we harvested last year, and that is going to be used on our pumpkin beds. So it's just been staying in here for now whilst we get the pumpkins ready to go out. Nonetheless, let's begin with what we have growing in the greenhouse. So first things first, these are some dwarf beans, and there's a few of them here which are coming up. In the tray next to the dwarf beans, this is where we have the edamame or soybeans, which we quite enjoy growing. If we move on down to this point, we have a shelf which has got various different nightshades in here. So we've got our aubergine plants, and we've also got some pepper plants. Now these are a bit late as I had a lot of trouble trying to germinate these at home, and we had to just kind of switch tactics in order to get them started, because space is quite limited at home and a lean-to wasn't always appropriate weather-wise for us to actually do this really. If I go up, here we have lots of lettuce plants which need to go out, and these are looking great. In this tray over here, this is where we are growing our basil, and we have different types of basil inside of this seedling tray, and these are going to go inside of the cloche that we have, or should I say not a cloche, we have a cold frame which has already got some rocket in there, and we have got plans for how we're going to protect the basil from the slugs. Over here, this is just some spinach plants. These two also need to go out. And then if we go up, you can see over here, these are just some cucumber plants. There are about 5 in this tray at the moment. You can't really see the 6th one very well. And then we have a couple of cells, or should I say another 5 cells to the right of it, which haven't had any come up, but we live in hope. Then we have some courgette plants, and we also have over here, this is a pumpkin plant, another pumpkin plant. There are a few more pumpkin plants over here, as you can see. Then if we move across, over here we have our tomato plants, and we've planted all these tomato plants in one pot, and they're different varieties of tomato plant. However, we've made sure to plant enough representatives of each type that we wanted, but we're not too strict about mixing these ones too much, hence why they're in here. Nonetheless, we have planted some in specific pots because we wanted to really keep an eye on what varieties they were. And in this pot here, what we have is one which is going to be a yellow variety of tomato, and then there's a second one here which is much smaller. Nonetheless, we are going to keep these together so that they can cross-pollinate most likely. But to be fair, it's not as much of a issue because tomatoes generally self-pollinate in the wind at times as well as the bees, so not too worried. But we still just wanted to keep an eye on what varieties were in each one for certain types. These ones here in this pot, even though I've not labeled these, we are aware that they are a type of cherry tomato, so these are all in here. And then a similar thing we have with this one. Behind, in this little container that says blueberry, we know for a fact that these are some black tomatoes, and these look really amazing when they ripen, the black tomatoes. So we thought, let's give them a try. So we have different varieties of tomatoes going on here, and we are looking forward to how these are going to turn out during the season. If we move across now to this shelf, we have our corn in here. We would have liked to have planted this out a little bit earlier, but they are in soil, so they will continue to grow and develop a bit. Nonetheless, our intention is to make sure that we plant these out very soon. This week is our optimum time to try and get these out into the soil. The issue we have had has been just with the weather, and we've also had the issue of the bed we want to use has needed a lot of work with clearing away various things, and we needed to make sure we cleared it up and cleared certain things out, because with the recent weather, slugs were a real problem. So we didn't really want to get these in the bed knowing that the bed wasn't ready or that there was a higher slug risk. This year, when it comes to growing corn, we've decided to opt for a slightly different variety of corn than we normally do use. The variety we've opted for is one that supposedly was developed in Europe, and it is open pollinated, and I believe it's called Damaun corn. It's spelled Damaun. I'm not sure whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, but after doing some research, we decided to select it because we had issues with growing the golden bantam corn, which we normally have been using. Now, the golden bantam corn is a great variety of corn. The issue we had with it, however, was that whilst it is very sweet, and whilst it is an heirloom variety, which is a nice characteristic, we noticed that after research and also personal experience, that the golden bantam corn generally requires you to have eagle eyes and to be watching right through to the very day of its ultimate ripeness, and you have to pick it on that day and rush it straight to the pot to cook it so that you get the maximum flavor. The problem with that for us was that we weren't always successful at judging the right time to pick it, and so what we needed was something which had the sweetness of the F1 varieties, which would keep its sweetness for longer without having to require being picked on a very specific day. Something that we knew would hold its sweetness for quite a while even after it had ripened, and something also that was closer to an heirloom variety. So what we did is we opted to go for the Damaun corn, and the Damaun corn is great because it holds on to its sweetness for a long time. As I mentioned, it's open pollinated, it's not F1 hybrid. Not that that's a terrible thing, but it just means that after the season's over, we can collect the seeds and know that what we grow next year will be the same. So with this variety, we know that it will have a great flavor. We don't have to be eagle-eyed with checking the exact day in order to pick it. We know that once it's ripened, chances are that whenever we pick it, the flavor will still be good. So we've decided to opt for this variety this year instead, and we'll see how it all goes. But nonetheless, we have also decided to grow some of the golden bantam corn, but this time we're just growing a few plants in a small bed where we'll be able to keep a closer eye on it and see whether we have better results with that variety as well, by just keeping a little bit more attention and having fewer plants to have to watch out for. Next to the corn, we have some of this, or should I say some of these nightshades. This is a chili which somebody gave to us. I don't really use chilies, but we have it, so we're just going to stick it in the soil and see what happens. Over here we do, however, have some aubergine plants that are a bit more established. One of them is supposed to be aubergine, another one is supposed to be a pepper, but it doesn't really look like a pepper to me, but I'll see what happens and take their word for it. But I wouldn't be surprised if both of these are aubergines. If we go down even more, on this shelf we have some plants over here which are beans, and the beans that we have over here, these are some dwarf beans, and then these ones here in the middle, these are another type of bean which we really love, and these beans are known as borlotti beans. And then next to this we have these are some these kind of red French beans, these climbers where you pick the pods and eat the pods, and these are really prolific. They tend to produce a lot. If we go down, these are some runner beans over here, and then to the right these are some more dwarf beans. As you guys can see, it's very hot in here, so that's my cue to get out of this greenhouse. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode. Do remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with everybody you know, especially those who are interested in gardening. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.